Thank you. Hello again. The intention of this presentation was, to give sort of an overview of two work-in-progress conservation treatments on artworks with aging, obsolete technology, kind of like running with the theme of the conference. And to provide a bit of context before I jump into the nitty-gritty, I am working at the Museum of Fine Arts in Houston, the 12th largest museum in the world, spanning 70,000 works in the collection. And time-based media is just a tiny sliver of that collection, with about 200 time-based works spread over a variety of mediums, formats, and genres, including video installation, electronic sculpture, single and multi-channel videos, and software-based artworks. The museum started collecting time-based media art in the late 1980s, and since then the collection has grown exponentially. Just a factoid, maybe, that the main curatorial departments collecting this kind of work are modern and contemporary, photography, Latin American art, and Asian art. So I will focus on this work by the artist Jenny Holzer, entitled Isms, Selections from Truisms, 1977 to 79. Holzer famously and strategically placed her text-based art in public spaces, and her series of truisms, one of her most well-known, and one that she started as a student in 1977. And they include phrases both conceived and appropriated by the artist that distill simple truths in the style of an aphorism. In fact, the title of this presentation is one of those truisms, right? Holzer would print and anonymously post the sheets with this text throughout New York City. And later, Holzer explored the use of LED lights, which had, in 1982, this sort of newfound capacity of displaying moving text. And so her first project with this technology was, in fact, 1982. And it was a public art fund commission for the Spectacolor board in Times Square, which is the image that you saw in the last slide. So the work had been installed in the recently inaugurated, as of 2020, modern and contemporary wing of the museum, and had been on display since then, until it started glitching seemingly all of the sudden after being on view for 3+ years, right? These things happen. And so, as you can see in the video that just finished, the unintended effect is that the middle 3 panels remain static as the text scrolls horizontally. So about 10 minutes after it's turned on, a full text sequence, including the middle panel, scrolls by normally, accompanied by the color and text animations that are characteristic of the piece. And so after this, let's call it startup sequence, the middle 3 panels freeze and show static fragments of the text from the previous sequence. We reset this and turned it on and off several times, time-tested method, out of the recommendation of an objects conservator who had been caring for this work prior to my hire. But nonetheless, the issue persisted. The documentation on this work can be described as thin. We had a few email correspondences with the fabricator that Holzer worked with for this series, and basic acquisition paperwork. So I was able to speak with Kevin Fussy, the founder of Kibo Works, a custom-led and engineering practice, and the person that Holzer worked with, over video call, and he explained to me that while advising conservators at the Guggenheim for a 2024 retrospective or exhibition on Holzer, that he encountered this issue where the SD cards that the work was prepared with had this known issue called read disturbed, which caused this type of malfunction over time. This error is found in flash memory devices and caused by multiple read operations, and their effect on flash memory when no writing operations occur, causing the cards to be worn out and leading to inadvertent reprogramming and damage caused by cross-coupling noise. So Kevin suggested that I take out the memory cards from the sculpture and back them up, and recopy them onto new SanDisk Max Endurance cards, which are these cards that are specifically designed for dash cam and surveillance cameras. And this is just funny. According to the spec sheet, they're designed to last, of course, and are temperature, waterproof, and shockproof, and have an estimated shelf life of 13 years. And so this all, at least to me, seems so simple. I extract the SD cards, copy the contents onto long-term storage, copy these files back into the new Max Endurance cards. But nothing in media conservation is simple, and in the process of copying the contents of the 3 SD cards, I came upon a card that would not mount, and I've used various commands on both terminal and Windows, and then the other cards out of the set of 3 would mount, but one would not copy over using rsync or the cp command. Could not even analyze it using check this. So after a lot of trial and error and making friends and maybe annoying the help desk team at my museum's IT department, it became clear that I was dealing with corrupted or damaged SD cards, and the files that were contained within them were unreadable. So this prompted a bit more back and forth with Kevin and our contacts at the Holzer studio. Kevin's messages required a little bit of interpretation and dissection. Those that are not engineers, that have to speak with engineers, might know this feeling. But fortunately, I had the company of Adrian Hernandez, time-based media conservation intern during the summer, to help us parse through the mysterious contents of these SD cards. And so these cards contain a sequence of RIP files and a single SHB file, which is what you saw in the previous slide. So Adrian worked on dissecting notes that Fuzzy sent into digestible chunks with a paraphrase and reorganization section, which you can see here. And this might not be novel or even look like standard time-based media documentation, but this helped us tremendously in understanding how this whole thing worked together. Especially working with binary files with little context, not knowing what programming language was used, and without being able to open up these files on Visual Studio Code or using some hex editors, which ultimately I was able to find a hex editor to open these files. But regardless, I'm gonna move on for the sake of time. But maybe this is where I have to mention and champion the work or the archival work done within the artist studio, because if they had not had backup copies of the artwork assets and sent it to us, we would still be dealing with inoperational artwork. This whole process, which you can call treatment or maintenance, also allowed for museum staff to gain a deeper understanding of the technical aspects of the piece. For example, the museum did not know that the work had a known duration, which is 4 hours, and did not have technical diagrams, the media assets used to produce the files, et cetera, et cetera. So the video is a video of the piece running properly in the lab, and I'm happy to report that it will be installed in the coming weeks. And so this is the video that's not working, so maybe I'll talk through it super, super fast. To speak to this work by Elias Crespin called Equilateros or Equilateros. This is an electronic kinetic motorized sculpture made of a series of 21 suspended triangular shapes with lead ball weights attached to each triangle point that move in a predetermined choreography, sort of like in wavy shapes. Imagine that, maybe. So this work is on display in the same modern and contemporary wing as the Holzer, but contrary to the previous case study, this work had undergone various conservation treatments over time. And so there was like a surplus of documentation, artist interviews, operating instructions, diagrams created by both the artist, his studio, and staff. Nevertheless, there were some gaps, and it was complicated to make heads or tails about what had occurred when and that kind of thing. So maybe this gives you like a better view. You can see in the image on the left, each triangle has a stepper motor associated to it. Each pair of up and down arrows in the user interface below. It's kind of tiny, but each up and down arrow represents one motor, which are the little boxes with the black stripes around the body in this image. And so they each have a spool of monofilament, the end of which runs through a hole in the white base that leads to the lead weight hanging below. So in this case, the computer, when this was created, was a gumstick computer on module, and then it was upgraded to a Raspberry Pi 3, and now it's running, or potentially will run, on a Raspberry 4. And this computer sends instructions to each motor through the driver boards. And the software directs the artwork to go through 43 sequences, each of which defines the specific arrangement of triangles and nodes. I'm gonna breeze through this then. So museum infrastructure was what prompted this treatment. The museum that I work at is in the southern part of the United States, and it's a region that has been consistently impacted by climate change, habitually experiences hurricanes, tornadoes, and has poor public services, including faulty electrical grid, which causes power shortages on a regular basis, which is what you just saw. Fluctuating in power led to the sculpture improperly shutting down, and then resulted in the monofilament threads to become entangled around the motor spool, which is what you can see there. The lines of broken monofilament were untangled and new weights were added. We lost some weights during this art incident. But issues persisted, and museum guards noticed that the artwork was unbalanced or lacked sync, which meant that the sculpture needed to be recalibrated. Many triangles and nodes were not functioning as they were supposed to. And so when the artwork is in this zero position, all the triangles are like on a level plane, and ideally 5 feet in height from the floor. However, when the artwork was placed in this zero position using the artist's software, the triangles were not all in the same plane. So I'm gonna give a lot of technical detail maybe here, but maybe to summarize and end this. Throughout the process of scheduling and enacting the calibration process, several power outages occurred. And so this has been an ongoing conversation. In fact, it's a treatment that has not been finished. So I've been in constant communication with Elias, working across messaging platforms, WhatsApp, email, text, and working across time zones. And this is the kind of partnership that you could say is rooted in a radical generosity, and that is only possible because we understand each other well, and there's a lot of mutual trust, and maybe leave it at that. And my acknowledgements. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Since it's your lunch break, there is time for one question. Question, comments? No? Thank you very much. It's I think it's awesome to see that if you would know more about things, and I don't know how often you've mentioned like raspberries or whatever, something. So being able to keep these things alive is proof that you need to have open things, as far as I understood, and documentation.